Here's what some people are saying about the Projection Booth podcast.
The Projection Booth is single-handedly the greatest film podcast you could ever listen to or could possibly want.
Top notch. 5 stars. This has quickly become one of my favorite film-related podcasts. Always interesting.
A completely unpretentious yet fully comprehensive look at films from all genres.
The Projection Booth podcast, with new episodes available every week at projectionboothpodcast.com.
Mouth of Dorkness podcast. Here are Brad, Brian, and Darren.
Welcome to another edition of the HOMEWORKcast podcast. With me is Brian Young, the Turtle Dork.
Ready to learn about some giant monkeys.
And also joining us is Brad Gullickson, Mouth Dork. I almost said Monkey Dork.
I am also known as the Monkey Dork.
Yeah.
Planet of the Apes, King Kong, Mighty Joe Young, I like them all.
You forgot Congo.
Oh, shit, I love Congo. The book, not so much the movie. Those gray apes are gross.
Oh, man.
Dunstan checks in, don't get no love.
You know what? As much as Paul loved talking about Dunstan Check-In, I never saw that movie.
What?
Really?
Homework.
Is there only one? Or wasn't there a sequel?
No. But there's that Matt LeBlanc movie with the chimpanzee, Ed.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that. Any Which Way But Loose, Every Which Way But Can.
Monkey Bone with Brendan Fraser?
No.
Wait, let me introduce myself. I'm Darren Smith, the Disco Dork, and welcome to the HOMEWORKcast podcast, HOMEWORKcast.
And we haven't had any liquor either. So
I'm drinking genuine H2O.
there you go.
It really is water. We're just naturally drunk off life.
Yeah.
This episode, Brian has been given the homework assignment of King Kong.
Yes.
Not Peter Jackson's King Kong, not the one with Jeff Bridges in it, but the original 1933 film.
Yeah.
Not King Kong Lives.
No,
Sadly.
no. And I'm assuming the reason you gave me this homework is when you asked me if I ever saw the original 33 version, and I answered no, you literally fainted out of your seat.
I mean, I am a little hyperbolic. I mean, it was made in 1933. You were not born.
I was not born
when this film was made.
I was not.
It's
no.
an oldie,
Yes.
but a goodie, maybe?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I really did. Just to be able to see the, I guess, the origins of the character on the big screen, this being the first iteration of King Kong on the big screen. And like I said with Slight in our Weekend Dork, a movie that, again, I like very much, but I definitely admire this film with how it was made during this era. I thought it was absolutely brilliant, it seemed like, to be able to make this movie in that way. So just the filmmaking aspect of this, I thought was just absolutely genius.
I don't want you to answer this question yet.
Okay.
We'll get to it.
Okay.
But I am curious, is it the kind of movie that you could watch as entertainment on its own in the future?
Not a homework assignment?
Not a homework assignment.
Right.
Just like I would like to watch King Kong. Don't answer it.
Oh,
We're going to
okay.
go back to that question.
Okay.
But that's what I want to get to. That's the meat of this episode.
Okay.
And I don't think you're there yet, is why I don't want you to answer.
Okay.
I want to knead that bread. I want you to rise into a King Kong fan.
Oh, man, Brad, you're awesome, man. You're awesome.
I agree.
All right, so let's dig into this.
So 1933's King Kong, what is it?
All right, so let's go to IMDb as we do always. Let's go to the synopsis. A film crew goes to a tropical island for an exotic location shoot and discovers a colossal giant gorilla who takes a shine to their female blonde star, who is then captured and brought back to New York City for public exhibition.
Okay, first topic.
Okay.
This is not your first experience with King Kong.
Absolutely not.
Your first experience with King Kong was what?
Oh, goodness. If I can go back to my childhood, I do remember watching King Kong Lives. Is that the correct one?
With Linda Hamilton.
Yes, the 80s version. There were two. There was one in the 70s and one in the 80s,
King
correct?
Kong Lives is technically a sequel to the 70s Jeff Bridges, Charles Grodin, Jessica Lange movie.
Okay, so that's the one I saw.
What do you remember about that one, Brian?
Ape titties.
Correct.
That's what I remember. But then, of course, through the years, I mean, just knowing, because King Kong has always been in the zeitgeist of pop culture, I mean, just hearing about it, reading about it, whether through TV shows or commercials or references. And then in 2005, we got Peter Jackson's King Kong film, which was basically, it felt like an homage, or I don't want to necessarily, now going back and watching this original, you could say it's a remake of the original.
2005 is a man who loved the 33 version so much.
Absolutely.
He wanted to extend every tiny moment of that movie into an iconic moment.
Yeah, and going back now, seeing the original, I was like, okay, why did Peter Jackson make this movie 3 hours long? I think he really could have had the same effectiveness that he intended without the movie being 3+ hours.
Was the movie 3 hours long?
Yeah, it's 3 hours, and then it's 3+ hours if you watch the director's cut. What I like a lot about the Peter Jackson film, and it's weird to start this podcast off here.
I do like that Peter Jackson movie.
I really appreciate the opening of the original film, really exploring
the Depression
New
era.
York during the Depression, those shots of the zoo in particular.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I love how he introduces the story.
Okay.
It takes a long time to get to Skull Island. I like all that stuff.
Really?
Once they're on Skull Island, maybe they could cut out a Brontosaurus chase or two. But for the most part, I like its length and its obsession with the original film. As somebody who also obsesses over the Marion C. Cooper 33 version, I'm on the wavelength of Peter Jackson for the 2005.
I think I need to rewatch.
For the most part.
I think I need to rewatch the Peter Jackson version, because from my recollection, that first hour before they even get on the ship, but they do a lot of character building from my
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's all they're doing.
Yeah, well, especially for Naomi Watts' character, which pays off towards the end, I think, really well.
I think if you recast Jack Black in the 2005 film, the film would be stronger.
Really? I liked him in that role.
You should go back and rewatch it. Having just done that with Lisa at the Alamo Drafthouse,
Yeah.
I feel like Jack Black is acting in a style that is more in tune with the original performance of Carl Denham.
Yeah.
It's a very much a classical performance, whereas Naomi Watts and even Adrian Brody are a little more naturalistic in Peter Jackson, so they clash sometimes on screen together.
Do you blame him, or would you blame Peter Jackson?
I blame Peter Jackson. I blame the direction and
So
possibly the casting.
Oh, so
Okay.
you think the casting? Okay.
I don't think. I think I'd blame the direction. I think Jack Black could be a really good Carl Denham. The choices he makes or is driven to make, I don't agree with.
Okay.
But anyway,
Fair enough.
Enough about 2005 King Kong.
But that's my introduction and my knowledge of the character. So, and I've seen clips and stuff of the night, and I knew of the 1933 version, but just never had the opportunity to see it.
So when watching this movie, I'm sure the clips that you had seen were him up on top of the Empire State Building,
Yes.
swatting at planes, him falling off of it. Was anything while you were watching it surprising or new to you?
A little bit of the beginning, seeing like when they get to Skull Island, a lot of the tribal people there, and when the crew interacts with them. A lot of that stuff was very new, and then just some of the other creatures on Skull Island, I never really, and just again, just the filmmaking techniques of how they were able to do, this is Ray Harryhausen.
No, it's actually Willis O'Brien.
Willis
O'Brien would end up, Harryhausen would be a protege of Willis O'Brien on Mighty Joe Young a few years later.
Oh, gotcha.
But this is the OG stop motion master.
Yeah. So, and just seeing like just how they composite a lot of those scenes together, and then just Kong himself, I mean, just the animation or whatever, however you would, categorize that.
Yeah,
I thought
stop motion.
Yeah, stop motion. And the way they integrated with the live action, I thought was really, really well done. And it's funny when you look at movies like this, when there's another movie that is inspired from it and you go back and you watch the original, you're always making those comparisons to the newer version. So I'm looking at certain scenes and I'm like, oh, is this when this happens?
Sure.
But it doesn't necessarily play out that way. And so you're trying to kind of like, play it out in your head, knowing that this came first.
Yeah, it's interesting to me. Sometimes the plots blur between the Peter Jackson film and the original film. And while I was watching this again, I'm like, oh yeah, they don't really deal with the Depression at all in this movie.
Yeah.
And they all just end up on this boat and they're all going to Skull Island. There's really no setup. They're just on that ship.
Yeah.
You do have... Jack Driscoll, but he's not a playwright. He's just a captain. He's not even a captain. He's the first mate of the ship.
But is he supposed to, of the picture that they're going there to shoot, John Driscoll? He's the lead actor, right?
Is he the actor? Well, in the 2005 film, he's at... No. Jack Driscoll in the 2005 film is the screenwriter, played by Adrian Brody.
But in the original...
isn't he just on the ship with the crew?
I don't know why I thought he was part of the cast.
Because of the 2005 film.
Okay. See, that keeps seeping into my head. Okay.
So they're going to Skull Island because Carl Denham's made a name for himself making jungle pictures.
Mm-hmm.
In 1933, jungle films were incredibly popular at the time. You had Tarzan the Ape Man. That had just premiered like a year before King Kong, I believe. The Lost World had come out to great acclaim in 1925. And that was really due in large part to Willis O'Brien's dinosaur creations.
Okay.
He did all the stop motion for that film. Wow. And, really in the early 20th century, very few zoos actually had primates in exhibit. You couldn't just go to your local zoo and see monkeys. And so there was this appeal of filming primates, putting them on camera, and really showing an outside world.
Okay. So at this time, like you were saying, they weren't really that prevalent in zoos. So this was something new in the 1930s to see like a gorilla or an ape.
Certainly a gorilla like this one. Marion C. Cooper's fascination with gorillas really started early on in his life, but reached like full-blown obsession for him during the filming of The Four Feathers when he was in Africa and studying the baboons near the set. And when he was on the set of The Four Feathers, that's when the idea for King Kong started to percolate. He wanted to do a Lost Island movie, something like Lost World.
Okay.
And it was after he saw Willis O'Brien's test creations, his little caricatures, where he thought this wasn't quite enough for a film. He needed another element. And that element was the eighth wonder of the world, King Kong.
Okay. This didn't start off as a book. So this film was the origin.
This is King Kong.
Okay, so it wasn't an adaptation like Moby Dick or nothing like that.
It's certainly inspired by a lot of Lost World type stories.
Okay,
but this is an original RKO idea.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, I guess getting into the film, I mean, in the beginning of the film, Fay Wray, I thought she was absolutely fantastic in the film. And then there was this conversation when Carl Denham is talking, I guess, to some of the producers when they're kind of like in this boardroom and they're trying to figure out like the budget and what his next picture is going to be. And this was just an interesting conversation. And I guess we can kind of maybe get into the conversation about, the social classes of men and women and some of the misogyny, which is
misogyny.
Yeah, which is interesting. I mean, I understand the time and the era that this movie was made, but it was just like watching this movie now, through the eyes of 2017. I had kind of had to be reminded because when I'm listening to a lot of them talk, I'm like, wow. I'm like, okay, this is 1933.
Isn't King Kong representative of how all men treated women at the time?
Yeah.
Snatch them out. of the building, do whatever they want with them, toss them to the side.
Yeah, and then just the way they just degrade her. It just
what about that conversation? What specifically are you thinking about?
Just the way I can't remember specifically, but I do remember them just talking in a way where they felt like, okay, women had a certain place, better to be seen and not heard.
So there, there's a line, and I can't remember if it happens at this point in the movie. I mean, they certainly are condescending towards Fay Wray through the whole film.
Yeah.
I hate Jack Driscoll so much. Carl Denham's not much better, but he has this line, and it comes later, but he says, like, some big hard-boiled egg gets a look at a pretty face, and bang, he cracks up and goes sappy. And that's pretty much like the morality of the movie, right?
Yeah, I do remember that.
The final line of, like, it wasn't the planes that got King Kong, it was beauty that killed the beast. That line, like that idea that was obviously like something that Marion C. Cooper and the filmmakers, they hung their hat on that idea, like that this beautiful creature could possess this beast. I mean, that comes from a misogynistic place.
It does, yeah. No, absolutely. And and it was hard for me to kind of believe that Driscoll, John Driscoll or Jack Driscoll. Okay, because I have a John in here.
It might be John. I might be getting my 2005 and 33 confused again.
Okay, yeah, well, Driscoll and Darrow, like how they would fall for each other in this picture, like.
I mean, this is like a totally typical 30s movie, right?
Yeah.
They fall in love because they're in the same room together.
Yeah.
They're on the boat.
Yeah.
There's only one girl on the boat, and there's only one handsome man on the boat. So they're going to get down.
Yeah. And the way they kind of like force it a little bit was a little bit jarring, where like you see Driscoll kind of change his tune in like a mere conversation that they have on the boat.
It's that scene on the boat where he is just like, he wants nothing to do with her, and then he gets like a slight glance of her smile or something, and then he starts to go like, maybe dames are pretty good. I might like this one.
Yeah.
But what, you talked about liking Fay Wray. What was it about Fay Wray that you found appealing?
Just her energy. Like, she has this very kind of like very quirky, high-pitched voice. And I don't know, like, again, I'm comparing it to like Naomi Watts, and it's completely different from Naomi Watts and the portrayal of Ann Darrow. But I don't know, she was just fun to watch on screen. I enjoyed like a lot of the scenes with her.
That scene where they're on the boat before they get to the island, and it's in the 2005 as well, but in the 33 where Denham is filming her facial expressions and getting the entire range.
Yeah.
And she goes from like look happy to sad to terrified to scream out.
Yeah.
And that performance is really wonderful.
Yeah.
And Naomi Watts replicates that scene quite well in the Peter Jackson film. I just like how Fay Wray is in it. Like, she is on the ship. She is in for this adventure. She wants to see her name up in lights.
Yeah.
She wants to be a star. And that is in the 33 version.
Yeah,
and when she eventually becomes that star, there's a tragedy to it. There's a darkness to that.
Yeah.
I think the 2005 film explores that concept a little bit better.
Yeah.
Or at least from a modern sensibility, but it is in the original film.
Yeah. I mean, you could definitely see it in those moments. I mean, you feel like the filmmakers, I don't know, like with Carl Denham, I don't want to say they use her, because at the same time,
he's most definitely exploiting her beauty.
He's definitely exploiting her, but at the same time, this is what she kind of wants at the same time too. So it's almost like a mutual type of give and take between the two of them. So
they get to Skull Island.
Yeah.
They anchor. And then they meet the natives.
Yeah, so they meet the natives, and they're performing this ritual that they kind of stumble upon, and they interrupt. And so they're kind of, which is funny, there was one person on the ship that could communicate or talk to them. And did they know that they were there?
Not sure.
Like, how was he able to translate?
I don't know.
This guy just, I speak their language, so.
Yeah. All native language, it's all kind of the same.
So,
at least in the 30s.
Yeah, but I don't know. I just thought that whole setup of Skull Island with the tribe, with the natives, and them performing this ritual for Kong. Because just like how we see, even in the most recent version of Kong Skull Island, like, John C. Reilly says, he's the king of this area. And even you see that in the 1933 version, like Kong is king there. And so, and you see that through like this opening scene. And it's interesting because I'm trying to picture watching this movie not knowing of Kong because you don't see him yet. So, like, watching this for the first time is an interesting setup because you're still wondering, okay, what is this thing? Like, what is it that they're performing this ritual for? So it definitely builds on suspense. Unfortunately, because we know of Kong, we know what's coming. But I thought it was interesting.
What about the native portrayal? All these actors in blackface.
Oh.
Did it stick out to you, or were you just like the 30s? Misogyny, blackface.
Yeah, that might be my ignorance. I didn't realize it was blackface.
Definitely.
Wow.
I mean, what's interesting in the 2005 version, there's some blackface going on in that Peter Jackson one also. But the portrayal at the end of the 2005 King Kong, where they bring out a replication of the native dance on stage, that replicated native dance is the exact same dress and dance from the 33 version.
Okay. Yeah.
So it didn't stick out to you.
It didn't stick out to me. It didn't. I mean, there's a part of me that's like, but then, the 1930s at that time, I mean, you're, 20 years off from, like, Birth of a Nation, so it's, I mean.
Not even.
So we haven't really come that far.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I see why.
Yeah.
I see why.
But the scene itself, the ritual preparing for Kong at the gate.
Yeah, I thought that was really effective. I thought that was absolutely effective. I thought it was a
Steiner's
great
score, those drums.
Yeah, the drums and everything was great. I thought all that stuff was great. Robert Armstrong as Carl Denham, I thought was really,
I love him.
Really good.
What's interesting about Armstrong and Bruce Cabot and Fay Wray, they all shot the previous film with Marion C. Cooper before, The Most Dangerous Game.
Huh.
And that's the film about a shipwreck that occurs on an island, and this crazy madman, Count Zarkov, is hunting down the humans. It became the Ice-T movie, Surviving the Game.
Ernest Dickerson.
Really?
Ernest Dickerson.
Hard Target, basically, also.
Charles S. Dutton.
And that film, The Most Dangerous Game, uses those same actors and that same set.
Wow.
So, like, if you watch The Most Dangerous Game after watching King Kong, they climb up that same tree you see. There's same cliff faces.
Yeah.
It's a really cool dual experience. And also, going back to a previous Itmod Homework episode, Zodiac, The Most Dangerous Game plays a part in that plot where the one of the theories was that the Zodiac killer took the Z, the name, from Zarkov, and was inspired by and quoted The Most Dangerous Game in his letters.
Interesting.
Tangent.
Man, so there was a lot of genre pictures in the 30s.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's also a Criterion disc. I've got that on standard definition DVD. If you were interested, I could hand you off that copy. It's a fun little movie.
Okay. I love Surviving the Game.
Yeah. Well, you got to see its predecessor.
Okay. All right.
But that, again, I'm trying to delay getting to Kong. But the Max Steiner score, when the movie opens and you have that title card, like, there is such an impact from the music. The music puts you immediately into the headspace of the film.
It feels that way, and I remember in the Week of Dork, Dan was talking about like the overtures as far. Well, no, I don't think that was in Week of Dork. We talked about that off air.
Yeah, off air. We do that too. Also, sometimes we record our conversation, sometimes we don't.
We talk
with Lawrence of Arabia. He was talking about like the overtures and stuff like that. And I remember when I popped in the Blu-ray to this, and when the movie opens up. It has that feeling, like you feel like, okay, if you walk into like these cinema houses or these auditoriums in the 30s, and people are dressed up in their tuxes and their gowns and going to the theater, just like how they replicate the end of the film, and they pull the curtain back and you just see it. The movie opens up in that way, and when you hear that music, it definitely is very reminiscent of like what Darren was talking about with like Lawrence of Arabia, what they recently did with The Hateful Eight. I thought it was really good.
So here's the crazy thing about this score. RKO did not want to put out any money for Max Steiner to make the score.
Really?
They were just going to use canned music over the film. And Cooper would not allow that to happen. So he paid out of pocket $55,000 to Max Steiner to write
just
a score for this movie.
Damn.
It paid off.
And this is the first feature-length musical score written for an American talkie. Because at the time, they were not doing it.
Oh, wow. Really? Okay. Wow. Interesting. Yeah, so I thought that was used very effectively, was the score. And good thing that he paid that money, because, yeah.
Hey, wife Dork.
Hey.
Ooh, that's new.
Yeah.
New equipment. Enjoy your episode, dorks.
Okay, so, all right, we're here. We're at the moment, the reveal. Kong, Fay Ray has been kidnapped.
Yeah, so they like tie her up and they're doing the ritual, and we get to see Kong, and it's a pretty wow, what's the best way to describe it? I don't know. Like when you first see him, you see his size, and then when you see the close up of his face, and you first see his face and like the yell and the way that he beats his chest and everything it's again, I go back just to the filmmaking of it, with the claymation animation and how they were able to integrate that with the live action. I just thought it was fascinating when you first see him on screen.
So being of this era where we have our Andy Serkises and we have our CGI and mocap stuff, and we have Dawn of the Planet of the Apes level CGI representations of apes and things like that, where you're able to pull dramatic performances from motion capture for Caesar and things like that. Being spoiled on that, were you still able to connect emotionally to Kong in this film, even though it was done using a different tool set?
It was harder. I'm not going to lie. It was a little bit harder for me to connect emotionally, because again, I'm going back and thinking back to like the 2005 version, and you think about the scenes between Kong and Naomi Watts. After he's like wrecked shop in New York City, and then he sees her on that street, and then they go and they start to go on the ice.
I love that scene.
It's just
I love that scene on the ice.
Such a beautiful moment, and you can really see the performance come through the CGI. And I don't feel like we had something like that in this film.
Well, certainly not.
And that's what I was looking for. Watching this was more of the connection between the beast and the beauty.
So with Kong, though, does he feel like a character or does he feel like an effect? This Kong, Willis O'Brien's Kong.
That's so hard to say. Initially, I want to say he felt more like an effect to me. I couldn't really connect the way that I wanted to the character. But I think that was only when he was in Skull Island, when they brought him back.
So before we get to bringing him back, I think I definitely see where you're coming from. It's your first watch. Kong's revealed. There is this They use stop motion, but they also have like an animatronic thing there as well.
Yeah.
And the animatronic thing to me does not look anywhere near as impressive as the armature, Willis O'Brien's creation.
Mm-hmm.
On the island, the moments where I see a character and not an effect are, there's the fight with the T-Rex, and he destroys and devastates that dinosaur, and he like cracks its jaw, and then he plays with its jaw.
Yeah, that I really enjoyed.
That's like my favorite moment in the entire film. Just the way he plays with that jaw, because to me that is an animal. That's King Kong.
Yeah.
That's not Willis O'Brien. That's the character.
I will agree with you on that. Yeah, I don't know why I completely forgot about the T-Rex fight, but yeah, you're right. That T-Rex fight I thought was absolutely fantastic. And after he kills the T-Rex, you're right. That moment, just like in the other iteration of it, you're right. He feels real. He feels like an animal, like just the intuition and the curiosity of what he just did and his reaction to that. That was a very small, nuanced moment, but the fact that they were able to recreate that and to make a moment like that felt very character-based, I thought was really good.
And that moment where the guys are trapped on the log over the chasm.
Yeah, and he's like reaching down.
Yeah, and he's like fucking with them.
Yeah. I thought that was really good too, because that was almost like a little cat and mouse game, like him, like Kong playing the game. So you could see like him actually like thinking, So it really didn't feel. So yeah, you're right. The more I'm starting to think about it, like when I initially saw him, the initial reveal, and then when you see that close up of his face. I was thinking more, okay, yeah, this is an effect.
Because that's goofy. That giant head is goofy.
Yeah, and that kind of turned me off slightly. But then a lot of those moments, like I said, the cliff thing, really, I loved that moment. That was probably one of my favorite moments.
With the pterodactyl?
No, the part you're talking about, they were crossing the log, and he's like reaching down. Because that's where we see some brutality in this movie, which I really didn't know we would get in this version, where they're falling to their death.
So it's 1933. It's pre-code. So this is an era where, natives are getting stomped on and pushed into the mud.
Yeah.
You see blood. There's real violence happening in this movie. That would all be shuffled away come the code.
Yeah.
But not at this point.
I mean, of course they're dummies, but when you see the people fall off the cliff and they basically just smack hitting the ground, like wow.
Kong kills a lot of people.
Yes, he does. He does. Which was I don't want to say it was off-putting, but it was different.
It was surprising, probably.
Yeah, very surprising to see that. I mean, granted, he's still an animal, but at the same time, I'm still thinking about the newer versions and how we connect to him emotionally. And I'm like, okay, if he's killing off the people that we've, have followed up to this point, like, is this movie expecting me to kind of feel empathy for Kong?
But you got to think, that's still supposed to be a logical extension of that character. Like you just said, he's a wild animal, and a wild animal is going to do that. You would have, if you would have any other film about someone making a connection to like a lion in the safari or something like that. Well, at the end of the day, you understand that lion is still probably going to bite that man in the head, once his natural instincts take over.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the same thing with Kong. You can still empathize with him. I mean, because we empathize with all animals, what we should is, save the animals, don't kill the dog.
Exactly.
But we understand at the end of the day that animal is going to be an animal and follow his instinct.
They're still an animal. Yeah, absolutely.
When I was a kid and I would watch this movie, I was always fascinated by why is King Kong the big deal on Skull Island? Because Skull Island's got T-Rexes, pterodactyls, stegosauruses. It's got it's the Lost Land. It's all these badass dinosaurs. And as a kid, I loved dinosaurs. So I was like, why are we following this monkey around? I want to follow these lizards.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm asking is, as I grew older, I started to feel the attraction and the appeal of Kong over these other beasts. And I guess what that is what we're talking about, those character moments. Kong, unlike the Stegosaurus, unlike the T-Rex.
You can see humanity, you can see a character through the primal nature of Kong, where you couldn't do that through a T-Rex.
Right. And you see his dominance over those monsters.
Absolutely. So you see why he is, king of Skull Island.
But then here come these New Yorkers with their gas bombs.
Yeah. And it was just one gas bomb?
Yeah. I was like, what? Come on. Wake up.
I know. I was like, come on, man. Yeah.
Carl Denham's like, I'm glad I brought these gas bombs. One should do it.
I know. Very convenient. He had just one.
Yeah. So they capture Kong because they're smarter white men with their New York ingenuity.
Yeah.
And they bring Kong back to New York.
Yeah, and they put him on display on Broadway, I guess.
Yeah.
And so that was interesting to me to see that, the eighth, Carl Denham declares, we're going to bring the eighth wonder of the world.
And I love that sign. It cuts from, Kong asleep on the jungle floor to the eighth wonder of the world, all in lights.
Yeah. And then so they pull back the curtains and then they recreate everything from Skull Island. They have him chained up. And I think they do have the tribal the characters on the stage. There's the tribal people performing the ceremony. And is it Fay Ray that they have, or
she's there? Whereas in the 2005 version,
they have another
elsewhere.
actress. Yeah, they have another actress. Okay, and you'd think they would have him, tied up nice, but still is. Look, he killed the fucking T-Rex. So you got there has to be adamantium on that or something to keep him from breaking out of those chains. But yeah, he breaks free, and
I'm impressed he stayed put as long as he did.
I am. I don't know if they still had him under, with the gas or whatnot.
Yeah, they just kept chloroforming him.
Yeah.
Little James McAvoy on you.
I figured they would need to. I don't know why they would thought, but like you say, that New York arrogance and ego. But but he breaks free and wreaks havoc on the streets of New York.
And then there's another great character moment for Kong when he flips that trolley and he's looking inside.
Oh yeah, that's right, the trolley. Yeah. I do remember that.
He just wants to get those almonds out of that almond mound.
That was a great moment. And again, like you say, just the primal nature of Kong, him being basically a fish out of water, in this foreign land that's not Skull Island, and even in that moment with the trolley, he's looking at this stuff just kind of seeing what everything is. And I like how Peter Jackson does that. He recreates that in the 2005 version, and seeing that here where it originated from, I thought was really, really effective in the way, again, character building for the character. So yeah, I think they really did a good job of creating a character for Kong.
So he snatches Fay Ray out from the window. Or that
that's somebody he thinks.
Oh, Oh, that's right. Because she,
and that was another thing.
When he finds out that ain't her.
Yeah, right. Too, because she was she was in bed asleep, minding her business, and now she's dead. Yeah. That's right. She got thrown out the window. What the hell?
Pre-code. So when does Fay Ray? Hold on. When does Fay Ray get back with Kong? Did she go? He goes up the Empire State Building, and then she follows. That's what happens in the 2005.
No,
he brings her up.
No. He does go through one of the rooms because Driscoll is with her.
Yeah, that's right.
Driscoll is with her,
but he takes her up there.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's what happens. I'm getting confused. So he goes looking for Fay Ray, finds that one sleeping lady, chucks her to her doom. Then reaches his hand in another pocket of the building. Yeah. That's when he finds Fay Ray.
And Driscoll is in the room with her.
Right.
I'm trying to remember.
And he carries her up the tree.
Yeah. Oh yeah, basically up the tree, and Driscoll follows and goes up there.
And then the planes come.
And the planes come.
So what about that scene? What do you think? This is one of the most iconic moments in all of cinema.
I thought it was absolutely great. Just the way they were able to shoot that and recreate that, I thought was absolutely fantastic. And just, they look like flies, like he's just basically swatting at flies. And, the way the planes come close to him and fly out, and then the guns shooting him, and, his reaction to it. It's just, I don't know. I thought all that stuff was really, really done very well.
What about Kong's size in this moment? In later incarnations of Kong, he would get bigger and bigger, a little bit bigger. And now in Kong Skull Island, he's Godzilla size.
Well,
in this, he's not that. he's like 20 feet tall, maybe.
I'm assuming he's the same size as he was in the 05 version, right?
They brought him, I think in the 05 version, he's a little bit taller than he is in the 33, but he's roughly the same size.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was thinking, because I mean, I assumed that he was the same size.
I bet you somewhere on the internet there is a size chart of Kongs.
Probably. I was assuming he was the same size that he was in the 05 version. But I like, I mean, of course, granted, now with this new cinematic universe that Legendary is creating, Kong is going to be, of course, to the size of Godzilla because he has to fight him. And I enjoy Kong Skull Island, but I like Kong when he's the size that he is in this version. I don't want to see. I mean, of course, we have to do it for effect. You know, if he's fighting Godzilla, but
okay,
I like.
I have a King Kong size chart. We're going to talk
for
about
all the versions.
For all the versions of Kong.
So what? So
1933 King Kong is 18 feet tall. 1933, 18 feet.
That's not very tall.
Not very tall.
No.
In the sequel that came out later that year, Son of Kong, that version of Kong is 12 feet tall.
Interesting. Yeah. Really?
Right. The 2005 King Kong is 25 feet tall, so he's a little taller.
Yeah, I thought like about 30 feet is what I thought.
The 1976 King Kong, 50 feet tall.
Okay.
Your favorite, Brian, King Kong Lives.
Ape titties.
And you know what? In this size chart, they definitely accentuate the ape titties. Is 60 feet tall.
Wow.
Going back in time a little bit, if you've ever seen King Kong Escapes, that King Kong is 66 feet tall. The King Kong from King Kong versus Godzilla, the original encounter, 1962, is 148 feet tall. That's the tallest Kong has ever been. Yep. King Kong Skull Island, he is 100 feet tall.
So the original Kong versus Godzilla is the tallest. 100 feet. Okay.
148 feet for King Kong versus Godzilla.
I'm thinking Skull Island.
Skull Island is 100 feet.
Okay, Skull Island. I mean, I'm getting off on a tangent because I remember, like John C. Reilly said that he hasn't finished growing. Because how tall is Godzilla?
He's between 300 and 500 feet. I think he's around 300 feet.
Okay.
Godzilla's big in Gareth Edwards.
Yeah, King Kong's going to be a little smaller than Godzilla. I would want him to be a little smaller.
Yeah,
right?
So you think this new version will probably grow maybe to 200 maybe?
Yeah, another 100 feet.
Okay.
Least. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
I don't think they're going to make him the same size.
At least a good size that he can fight him.
Right.
Okay. All right.
So, listeners, if you're curious about this chart, go take a look at the ItModcast Twitter feed. I've just tweeted it out.
Nice. So 33 is 18.
Yes.
And comparable to the 05, which is 25. So it's about 7 feet
correct.
taller.
Yeah.
That's roughly the same. I mean, I like Kong at that size.
Well, I love the shot in this version where you get this wide shot of Kong scaling the building.
Yes.
And he's this tiny dot going up the Empire State Building. I love that shot.
Yeah.
So that when he is finally taken down by the planes, it repeats the climb with the fall. And that tiny little fly of Kong going to his doom.
To his death, yeah.
When Kong falls to his death in the 1970s, Kong, that was the first time I cried for a movie, for somebody dying in a movie.
Really?
Yep. I remember being on the couch with my dad. And my dad's laying on the couch and I'm laying on him and I'm watching that. That scene happens. He falls, hits the ground, and they come up to him. He's kind of still breathing slowly, and then he dies. Like, I remember crying, and that was the first time I cried for a movie. Yep. I remember it vividly, like it was yesterday.
Wow. Yeah. And the fall for this was, again, how we talk about the violence and the brutality, a lot more brutal because he's hitting the building on the way down. Where in the 05 version, it's just a smooth.
It's a slow fall in the 05 version.
It's very eloquent. It's very, it's very graceful.
It's like Vanilla Sky.
Yeah.
Open your eyes, Kong. Open it.
Yeah.
So what about his death? What do you like? I mean, are you feeling anything? Or you're anticipating it because you know how it goes?
I'm anticipating it, but just like with any other iteration of Kong, regardless if you're able to connect with him emotionally, you feel for him because these people brought him out of his natural habitat. He didn't ask to be brought to New York. Kong didn't say, "Hey, I want fame and fortune." Like he's chilling. You know, he's chilling on the island. He's on Skull Island. He's fighting these dinosaurs. He's
sometimes snacking on natives.
Yeah, you know, but you know, if that's the life they chose,
No, they did not choose that.
They know the deal.
you know,
Monkeys got to eat too.
They didn't choose the Skug's life. No, but no, I do feel for him because, like I said, like again, just the whole thing of just, you know, man bringing this beast out of his natural habitat for their own wealth and for their own fame, and then to ultimately kill him off, you know, out of their own survival instincts. It's just, I mean, it's sad. You know, it was sad. So of course you definitely feel for him.
You shed monkey tear?
No, I didn't. I didn't. But that's the interesting thing about seeing this movie now. I would have loved to have seen this movie maybe 20, 30, even 30, as a kid.
In 1933, you wanted to see it. Like, you should have.
Yeah, if I was around then, yeah. I mean,
Time to quantum leap back.
there you go. But I think this is a movie that could be very effective for like kids. And you guys have mentioned that you saw this as young as at an early age. I think like if I would have saw this movie like 9, 10, 12, something like that, it could have deeply affected me in a different way than seeing it as like a 39-year-old man, you know, seeing it now. But again, like I said, the admiration that I have for this film as far as like what they were able to do.
So now let's go back to my original question. Will you watch this movie as an entertainment?
You know, I think I will because I enjoy these old black and white films. I do. And I do remember even being in college when I was in film school studying film, we would go back and watch a lot of these older films. And I found myself really engaging in these movies a lot. And they're just different. It's a breath of fresh air from a lot of the stuff that we've gotten before. And I could see myself, if I'm in the mood, popping in King Kong, the 33 version, and watching it again. I enjoyed even the human actors, yeah,
the shittier guys that weren't animated by Willis O'Brien, those poor bastards.
Those mere humans. But yeah, Carl Denham, Fay Ray as Andero. I really enjoyed all of their every time they were on screen. So I think without a question. Now I couldn't tell you when it would have to, just like
I'll
with
tell
any
you
other
when.
movie.
The next build up to Godzilla.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would.
Yeah.
I would. I mean,
That's when I watch it.
Yeah,
You should watch it when I watch it.
Yeah, Godzilla 2 or Kong versus Godzilla in the next 2-3 years. I'll watch all of them.
So do you agree with its placement in cinema history? You know, putting it right up there with Citizen Kane and other films like that, Casablanca.
Yeah, I mean, just like how I was saying before, like for me, I haven't seen anything. I haven't seen the other films that Willis O'Brien has done before, but to me, this seems like something new that has never been seen on screen.
You know what I want to do
What's that?
now? Is so we've seen the pinnacle of Willis O'Brien's achievement,
Okay.
King Kong.
Okay.
I think I would like to show you some Ray Harryhausen stuff. Maybe do Mighty Joe Young, which was his version of King Kong or his tribute to King Kong.
Okay.
Harryhausen starting off from Mighty Joe Young. I got that.
That's not the one. That's not the one Charlize Theron is.
No. But it's the original of that.
I know. I'm joking.
It's not as good as King Kong. It's straight up not.
Okay.
But from a stop motion standpoint, it's interesting. But then we got to get into like Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, Jason and the Argonauts, Mysterious Island.
Yes.
You know, that's some really fun quality.
Have you ever
stuff.
seen any of the Sinbad pictures? And
No,
Jason and the
I
Argonauts?
know of them, but I haven't seen them.
So it's funny, like Brian saying he wished he had seen the 1933 Kong years ago as a child or whatever. You know, seeing Ray Harryhausen's work as a kid is one of those things that I don't think as an adult you would, if you know, first being experienced to that. I don't think you would appreciate it in that same way, especially before. Well, but you got to think, Brad. This was before. You look at what we see now and what's as far as practical with special effects and things like that. Like having seen anything like that.
Well, I mean, I think
swashbuckling adventure with the stop motion. He's sword fighting fucking skeletons.
Darren. I did not see those movies until my 20s. What? So I didn't grow up with Ray Harryhausen. I had seen King Kong. I didn't really like King Kong as a kid.
Yeah.
This movie that we're talking about. It was an old black and white movie that I wanted to know more about the dinosaurs, not that monkey. I didn't fall in love with King Kong until I had fallen in love with Ray Harryhausen and the art form that is stop motion animation.
Okay.
And that happened because I finally saw Seventh Voyage of Sinbad and Mysterious Island.
Okay.
And then once I saw those movies, I had to see the history of the art form. I had to see all of Harryhausen. I had to see the Willis O'Brien stuff. And for me, what's so great about stop motion is how an artist puts character into an inanimate object. Yeah. And I am not a person who's like, stop motion animation so much better than what we get today with these CG cartoons, because we do have Andy Serkis and the Wizards who put Dawn of the Planet of the Apes together. We have found ways to breathe life into animated cartoon characters and place them next to human beings, the way that we did in Seventh Voyage of Sinbad and Jason and the Argonauts. However, we have also been inundated with a lot of subpar CG work and characterless CG work. And I feel like there is more of the bad in the CG realm that we are experiencing than the good.
Yeah, I agree. I think it kind of does water down the stuff that really is good. But I mean, it's awesome to kind of see like what Andy Serkis and like Weta and a lot of these people do, like with Gollum and stuff, because it feels like an extension of what Ray Harryhausen
Look at
is doing.
Oh, absolutely. Look at the Hulk in Avengers.
Yeah, so I mean, like, just being able to see, you have a better appreciation for the good CGI and what people are doing now, because you see that, you know, like Willis O'Brien and Ray Harryhausen were really like the inspirations and the cultivators of this era that we have now. And it's when we think about it in that terms, it's pretty awesome.
And when you're talking about Ray Harryhausen, it is very much like talking about Andy Serkis. You're talking about a master in his field. You can go back in time and also watch a bunch of junk stop motion animation.
Okay.
In the recent MST3K return, I was watching Star Crash, the Roger Corman quote unquote classic. There's a statue that comes to life, and there's these two little mechanical robots also. And I love them. I love that movie before Jonah and the gang started riffing on it. They did a great job with it. It's a terrible, cheesy movie. Yeah. And the way that those creatures move, they don't have the character of a Harryhausen creature.
Yeah.
You should look into more like stop motion artists, like Phil Tippett.
Is a really good one.
I just rewatched RoboCop 2. I said that not too long ago in the episode.
Oh, yeah.
He did the stop motion animation.
Okay, yeah, it's definitely come a long way. It's just how much it's evolved, and like you said, and seeing this, and like I said, I didn't know the name Willis O'Brien. I thought when watching this, because I've always heard the name Ray Harryhausen.
Sure.
But seeing this and knowing that these men and their teams were probably just like the innovators of this new age of where we are now with just animation and graphics and being able to, like you say, put character in a lot of these inanimate objects or things that aren't really real.
Isn't there a Ray Harryhausen documentary?
There is. Arrow Video just put it out. I can't remember the whole title, but if you look up Ray Harryhausen, you'll find it.
Check that out.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So yeah, I enjoyed this film. I really did. I thought it was really, really good. So yeah, thumbs up for me.
All right.
Next homework.
Oh, it's me.
It's your turn.
All right. So I'm
scared. I'm always scared with Darren, man.
Don't be scared. You might have seen this one, I think.
Uh-oh.
So I was just rewatching the Thor Ragnarok trailer. And as you know, I'm excited about it. Not only because of the Hulk and that being my favorite Marvel superhero, but also because of the director, Taika Waititi. Having recently just watched Hunt for the Wilder People, that being a very good film.
I think I know where you're going.
Yes, I'm going there. the first film that I saw of his is What We Do in the Shadows.
Yeah, haven't seen it yet.
And the comedy that is...
You weren't there at that last weekend?
No, I wasn't.
The comedy that's in the trailers of Thor Ragnarok, that's more prevalent in the actual film of Hunt for the Wilder People, is really much more on display in What We Do in the Shadows.
Yeah.
But because it's more of a straight up comedy than the Hunt for the Wilder People. But the thing that he excels at is taking comedy and infusing the heart and humanity of these characters.
Okay.
I mean, that is in all of his films. Obviously we haven't seen Thor yet, but I'm expecting that to be a strong point of the Thor film. But you can definitely see it in Hunt for the Wilder People. You have that,
absolutely,
that New Zealand that feel and that comedy and that uniqueness. He has that small bit part at the service in the film. Yeah. Well, that is the duration of the runtime of What We Do in the Shadows. So I mean, it's a send up of the vampire werewolf tropes, but and that coupled with the reality TV type show where they follow. It's like a documentary where they follow these vampires in their daily lives, but it has his brand of comedy, but also more importantly his brand of heart in these characters. And so it's a really funny movie first and foremost, but secondly it's just a very well made movie in that it's unique in what it executes and pulls off and melding all these different elements. Yeah,
I've been wanting to see that, and it's so weird too because so many people reference that movie, like because of Thor Ragnarok coming out, and everybody talks about Taika Waititi. They always reference, because I've seen Hunt for the Wilder People, but everybody always references What We Do in the Shadows before they reference Hunt for the Wilder People.
You'll see why.
I'm like, okay, I need to see this. Like, why is this one so revered more so than Hunt for the Wilder People?
And my hope is that, like me and everyone else who's seen What We Do in the Shadows, my hope is that once you've seen it, your excitement for Thor Ragnarok will have tripled.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm definitely just off the strength of Hunt for the Wilder People. But yeah, just how much people love What We Do in the Shadows. I feel like I need to see that to complete like my thoughts on Taika.
Yet again, this is a really interesting month of homework.
It
for
is
Brian.
very, very much.
Hedwig and the Angry Inch.
I know.
1933 King Kong and What We Do in the Shadows.
It's pretty cool though. It's really cool. I like homework. I like homework when it's like that. A little diversity.
All right, so that's going to do it for us. Thank you all for listening. You can follow the podcast at ItModcast on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. Brian is at the Turtle Dork on Instagram. At the Turtle Dork 1 on Instagram and at the Turtle Dork on Twitter, and Brian William Young on Facebook. Yeah. The lovely wife Dork, who's over there so diligently tending to her smartphone device, is at Sidewalk Siren on all social media. She's probably not all social medias, on Twitter and Instagram. And I would also like to remind everyone that the month of May is ItMod month at the Alamo Draft House in Winchester. That's right. Each Sunday in the month of May, a dork will be hosting and screening a film in conjunction with Film Club 3.0, thanks to Andy Gyrison. So on May 7th, I, the Disco Dork, will be screening and hosting Kung Fu Hustle, Stephen Chow's film. And then on the second Sunday, the 14th of May, Wife Dork will be screening a little film called Head that may or may not be important to her. No big deal. And then on the third Sunday, Mouth Dork has Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid. And finally, on the last Sunday in May, the 28th, the Turtle Dork is screening one of his favorite films.
Secret of the Ooze.
Wow.
Oh.
Nope. Knockoff.
Hey.
Just kidding. It is going to be Joe Carnahan's The Gray. So Liam Nee's Punching Wolves, son.
Yes.
And all those. Each film starts at 5 p.m. Tickets are on sale now on the Alamo Draft House website and also on Fandango or wherever you choose to buy your movie tickets.
Pick your ticks in the second row if you want to sit next to the cool kids.
Yep. So come out and support ItMod and also Film Club 3.0. And
make us look good.
Some great films. So
wait, I wasn't on this episode. What's happening?
I was like, how did she scramble on over to the mic so quickly?
All right.
I was feeling left out.
All right. Brad is at Mouth Dork on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Letterboxd. And I'm Darren Smith, the Disco Dork, on all social medias. That's going to do it for us. Thank you all for listening. You can continue the conversation on social media. Just hit us up at any one of those addresses. Are you all right, Brian?
I'm good.
All right. Thank you all for listening, and until next time.